And
Right. I want to hear.
Put the glasses on.
Okay. Serious. It got real.
because I've learned that the grace that I have given is definitely not the grace that I have received. And the grace that I have given is definitely not the grace that I have received. Like, you have kept people's secrets, you have known that they have done things, and you still covered them and let them operate in ministry in their place. You've taken hits from other people who got offended with you in ministry for letting people still operate, in areas, because you know that as a leader, you do how God leads you. And sometimes people may fall into situations, a deacon, or minister or somebody may fall into a situation, and they out in a relationship outside of marriage or however, but you cover them, you encourage them, you say, I'm not going to sit you down because I don't want you to go backwards. I want you to go forward. And maybe if I leave you in the place that you're in, you'll see your own accountability, you know what I'm saying, and you'll get yourself out of this or get it straight. So you've been there for people, but I am afraid to actually maybe have any moral failure in front of the people, because just based on just me being who I am, and when people get offended with you, you haven't even had to do anything. When people get offended with you, you do not get what you have given. Last week I talked about us, being the container and the conduit of grace, right? And so, right. And so if you have it, and you do, and people, the members have it because they get it. You understand what I'm saying? From the leader, you also have to reciprocate that same level of grace. And I think that people don't look at pastors is that they are human too. And and I think even in my tenure in the 19 years that, I'm a very loyal person, right? To a default. And like, especially if you are, you've been good to me, you may have done something for me. I feel very obligated to people, and so that's always a setup for a huge letdown for a leader. You know what I mean? Because I remember a pastor, and people used to talk about them saying, oh, they won't even give there, because we used to give people rides and, pick people up for church, go all the way out your way to pick people up for church and bring. Pastors really don't do that, and always looked at pastors in my early days like, oh, they don't have no love or no compassion for the people. How they gonna leave them on the bus stop and ride right on past? But I realized that you cannot let some of these people ride. And I remember this song that this bishop used to sing, don't let the devil ride. Because if you let him ride, then he gonna want to drive, right? And so, sometimes as much as you want to give yourself and go, because we as leaders think that theologically we have to go over and above our own well-being, right? To show the saints that we are a person of God, right? And I think that we're not God, number one, and just like you are going to have failures, your pastor is going to have failures as well. There have been pastors that, been seen out on dates and they know that they married. And I know of some situations like that, but that person did not like what they saw their pastor doing, but they never said nothing. See, that's how you become a conduit of the grace that you receive. You understand what I'm saying? And not that, and what they did was they had a meeting with their pastor to address what they saw. Right? And so, like, where are the people who have enough courage You know, because I just think that many of the body of Christ, they're cowards.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? So
Wow.
they go and they talk about people to other people, and then all these things get out there. Like, I thought that was the most honorable thing to do for your leader. You at the Miriam, you see your leader on a date, and it wasn't their wife, but you didn't tell no one.
Wow.
But you asked to have a meeting with the leader, and they gave that meeting, and then they discussed what they saw, how they felt, you know, and they never left the church. I think this person may be going on 36 years at their church, right? So, I mean, because you have to be able to understand that before your pastor was a pastor, they were you that were being pastored.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? And so, like, because I know that I was a mess when I was being pastored, right? I was arrested. I was in, I had always had a life of fornication before I got saved. So, you know, I ain't even going to say it was Inspirats. I was born a fornicator, right?
We all were.
Right.
And so, you know, I was all these things, but I definitely got great love, and it made me love God more. I didn't look at my leader as God. I looked at God more because of the compassion that I got from my leader. But I think this generation, because of social media and stuff, they look at people more than they look at God.
And that's a real thing. That's a real thing.
You were talking about, like, you mentioned blogs and everything like that. What happens when you see your leader on one of those? And
Right.
So, in general, my perspective, even coming to this conversation, is a little different because I am the preacher's kid, pastor's kid. So, you know, I've always known that my pastor is human because my pastor was my parent.
Right.
So it's always a little different, and it would be a little bit disappointing when I would see parishioners not, respond to the humanity of my mom or my dad. After, like Pastor Ray was saying, after you cover their secrets, and we know, and I'm like, my mom would have never put that out about you. You know what I'm saying? And then, you know, with the evolution of like the Facebook Lives and just Instagram Live and just social media as a whole, where you can reach so many people. And I love social media. Like, I love it. I think it's amazing. You touch so many people without physically touching them. But I think the biggest thing when it comes to the church is a lot of people don't realize that they're not exposing the church to the church. They're exposing the church to the world.
Wow.
That's good.
And that's like the biggest thing that bothers me. Like, you're not, when it comes to your congregation, it's like, okay, you can call out certain offenses, like you said, that person took it to a meeting, and it's not like we're turning a blind eye to the offense. That I love you and I respect you and I give you enough grace in a situation that I don't even want people to see you like that, because I know how much I honor you, and it's not like I honor you on the level that I honor God, but I reverence you in that regard, that I don't want to see you slip. I don't want to expose you to people that don't even have your best interest. Because even after it's reshared, it's reposted, all people gonna say is, "Wow, that's crazy." I never knew he or she was like that. And they be preaching, and they supposed to be a man of God. Like, that strips you of being who God has called you to be. And so, like I said, my perception is a little different because, again, I grew up with pastors as parents, and I've always been exposed to their humanity. But also, in their humanity, that doesn't stop the words that I receive from them, all the prayers I receive, and all the covering that they've given me. And now, you know, having my own church home and my pastor, like, I see them inevitably as humans, because I know what it takes to even be in the pastor role.
Pastor Jamal Bryant said years ago, he said, the army of the Lord is the only army where they kill their wounded.
That
We don't
is
go hard for each other.
that is a fact. I mean, the church is supposed to be a safe space, right? But it is no longer safe, and it's not just leaders. It's because you got leaders that are molesting children, and you know, and you know, doing a lot of things. I mean, I could say on top of a lot of other things, but then at the same time, you know, you also have innocent leaders that are also being, you know, just definitely hurt and attacked by the parishioners or people, you know, who work with them and things like that. And so, I mean, I think that the bottom line to, you know, bringing a definition to church hurt is the circumstances between people in the body of Christ that have occurred. But I think that we have to stop saying, you know, I've been hurt by the church. Like when people say, why you don't go to church anymore, people always say, oh, because I've been hurt by the church. And so somebody that's an outsider would be very hesitant on attending a physical building per se and say, well, that's why I have my relationship with God at home. Because I really don't want to put myself in a situation where I go to a church and then I get hurt, you know. So you already put in expectation for another person that doesn't know anything about it to have an understanding that, you know, I could get hurt in this place. And this is a place of healing. You know what I'm saying? Like the church is definitely a place of healing. But this is how I see things now. We're not preaching the gospel. This is just the bottom line. Like, we're not preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ. And because we're no longer preaching the gospel, the message of love, the message of giving your life for somebody else. So everybody is offended when the focus is off of them, you know what I'm saying? And it's put on to something else because now every message is about get away from these people who are abusing you and hindering you from living the life that God, you know, has called you to live. But the gospel says that in sharing the gospel, right, that people are to die and to give up the life that they always dreamed of, right? Like, what happened? To give up your life so that you can have a life. So everything that, you know, people are being preached to hold on to definitely is affecting the unity of the body of Christ, because we're not preaching the gospel of love. We're not preaching the gospel of, you know, servanthood. You know what I mean? We're not preaching. I was just talking to somebody the other day about reconciliation, and that when you have this is a gift. And none of us own it, right? Even the gifts that you have, whatever your gifts and talents are, whatever my gifts and talents are, nobody can control or harbor that for their own use. Because they belong to God, right? So it's not even your gifts, right? Everything we are, anything we do, we're all instruments, right, in the hand of God. So we're all being used by God. And so, but there is a message being preached that your destiny, your gifts, your this, your that. And so people don't have a focus on like allowing themselves to not be in the front or not be the main thing so that there could be unity. Everybody is about going and getting theirs. You know what I'm saying? And getting ahead and being on top and being known and being liked. And so this is what we're preaching. We're not preaching the gospel. We're not giving up our lives, you know, because whoever loses their life, that's the person that's going to have life. You know, if you try to hold on to the life that you have, then you're definitely going to lose it, right? And so the gospel is clear. The gospel is clear. And so we're not preaching enough of the gospel message. We're preaching about, you know, what God promised, opposed to preaching a message that changes and transforms us. So people are just focused on what they are supposed to have.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it brings a great divide.